We're going to talk really quickly about the human being. The human being. Now listen, I'm going to talk just quickly about the old school worldview and the new school worldview. The old school worldview says something like this. What happens to the Aborigine who lived in 1620 who never heard of Jesus? The old school was they go to hell forever and burn and burn and burn. Is that the only thing? Some people would say, well, if they lived according to the best they had, then maybe God would have mercy on them. And then the old school was something like, well, if they really were a seeker, then God would have found a way in 1620 to get a missionary out there in Africa, in Australia, to visit the Aborigine, to give them the gospel. Those are the three main old school ways we used to answer those questions. What about the Aborigine, right? Well, it's much more than just the Aborigine when you think about it. In fact, I want you to pretend that there is a flower, and this is the center of the flower, and that says the human being. And then the petals, there's 10 petals around that. And I want to talk to you about those 10 petals right now that bring that idea of the Aborigine more close to home. In fact, they bring it right into our own household. Because in the human being, there are so many different factors that come into play as to why some people are one way and why some people are another way, just like why some people are Americans and some people are Aboriginals from Australia. So the first thing to consider when it comes to somebody in this world receiving, understanding, knowing Jesus is their family. Just where they came from genetically. Who mom and dad, who grandma and grandpa were, what was the emotional, intellectual, physical, psychological makeup of everybody in the family? Was there abuse? Was it a good family life? Every person we meet has a family or non-family, they could have been adopted, that they come from, and that greatly affects the way that they see the world, the way they hear the truth or not, and what they embrace. So that's the first petal on that human being flower, the family. The second one is the genetics of the family. So we have the tenor of the home and the family, and we have whether it was love and peaceful or chaotic, or if there was discipline, or if there was alcoholism, or if there was abuse, or all of those things that come with upbringing in a family. But then you have just the genetics that come with your parents and your grandparents and your forefathers. Genetics play a huge role in how we think, in intelligence, if you're able to grasp concepts or not. The next petal on that is your religion. And so as children, youth usually embrace the religion of their parents. So a Hindu will raise Hindu children, and a Muslim will have Muslim children, and a Christian, a Pentecostal will have Pentecostal children, on down the line. This is just the third petal of tremendous forces that help mold and shape the individual. You can go to, was their faith dogmatic? Was it full of doctrine and practice? Did they feel guilt, shame for sin? The impact is enormous on that petal called religion. We drop down, then we come to socioeconomics of the family. Were they poor? Were they rich? Did they have a culture that provided them with all sorts of great experiences? Or did they come from a culture that provided them very little in terms of socioeconomics? So, and then you start to come into early experiences with others. Now you're talking about the individual and their childhood. Was it fulfilling and loving and building? Was there trauma? Did they get hit by a train when they were 4 and it knocked them unconscious for 7 weeks? And did they experience death in their family or challenges and tests that other people don't? These are like 5 of the first petals of the person we call the human being and how those factors play into what they think and what they do. Who are their friends? The next thing. Did they have a lifelong friend? Did they have trouble making friends? Were they alienated by the friends in grade school and high school? And did that make them more susceptible to certain religious tenets or less susceptible? And then you can go to the environment itself. Did they grow up in a place that was war-torn? Or did they grow up in a country that was peaceful? What was the political nature of the country they lived in, or the town, or their parents, etc.? Did they serve in the military or not? These are other factors as we're starting to get older that play upon somebody's worldview. And then you come to education. Formal education. Did they do grade school, junior high, high school? Did they do college? Some. Did they go to a university? Did they get a master's or a PhD? Where did they get these things? Was it at the local community college in Panguitch, Utah, or did they go to Harvard and Yale? I mean, these factors play greatly. So look at those petals on the human being. Look at all those factors that play into how we think and feel and believe and walk and look. And then there's just the culture of the community that they live in. Is it white collar? Is it blue collar? Is it agrarian? Is there and just all of those factors. So remembering all of those factors, we come to the point. Christians of old used to say, if you didn't check every single box that we want you to check, you're not a Christian, you're not saved, you're going to burn in hell forever. That is the former way, the old school way, the stupid way, the non-eschatologically sound way of reading the Bible and applying it to others. The new way says, this Bible tells a story of what God did through the nation of Israel in bringing forth a Messiah who gave his life and shed his blood for the redemption and reconciliation of the world. And when you start to see the faith that way, the good news becomes the great news, and all of those factors become irrelevant. Why? Because Jesus did it for everybody. He did it for every single factor and every single thing, even for those who were raised by atheist parents that were brutalized in a war-torn country with poor education, who are Muslims and hate Jesus. Jesus took care of them. And God takes into account all those factors when it comes to the afterlife for that person. And God is love. So if a Christian today understands that, and someone says, what about the Aborigine? Covered by Jesus' blood. What about this? Covered by Jesus' blood. Do they have this? Do they have that? That's up to God. But we trust that Jesus took care of everybody, everywhere, for everything. Out!